This is Paul with...
I'm with UPMC, Western Behavioral at Twin Lakes.
There we go.
Twin Lakes in Somerset.
Yeah, a therapist. And so you're telling me like a little bit about your story. It's pretty interesting. So can you...
Yeah, without give you the Reader's Digest version. So in 2009, I retired from the military after 30 years of service, and I came to this small town, Somerset. My wife's family's from the area, and I settled in for a job as a teacher. So I did that for a little while, and then I got the bug of volunteering, doing some motivational speaking in the community, and I was asked to be part of a juvenile drug court. And from there, I met counselors. And I gotta tell you, admittedly, that, after 30 years in the military, I knew what addiction was. I could, thought I did, but I really had no idea. And on that drug court, some of the counselors from Twin Lakes, they said, "Hey, why don't you do whatever it is you're doing? Come on down. We'd like to have you. Would you volunteer?" And I said, "Sure." So I would go down there every Friday night and do some motivational speaking. Maybe for 18 months, 2 years, something like this, started getting involved. And eventually I was asked, "Hey, why don't you work here? Why don't you be a counselor? Let's see what we can do." And the rest, as they say, is history.
Right.
So here I am. But I'm probably the last person you would think to be doing this job.
Right.
And I can tell you, sort of my attitudes as I came out of the military, not knowing anything. We talk about stigma. I was one of the stigma inflictors, if you can understand that. I didn't want to be associated. I can remember my truck was parked in a church parking lot at night for a meeting, and I didn't know that there was an AA meeting. And I asked, "Are there all these cars? Oh, AA." Like, oh no. Yeah. So all that is quite turned around now.
Right.
So I'm helping.
It's much needed. And, going from like active addiction to recovery is the structure. And because I think like structure is kind of like, losing your control. You know what I mean? Because whenever you're bound to structure, you're bound to something outside of yourself. And I think that's a big part of addiction. It's just trying to grab a hold of control.
We introduce some structure so it can be built on. And if you know anything about children, if you put a bunch of children in that park over there and give them a soccer ball, they're going to come up with rules real quick.
Right.
They're going to do some structure.
Right.
They'll say, "Okay, here's the goal lines. Here's this." Yeah, because we create within these boundaries, right? But we've got to make them. And from my observation, I don't have the experience, thank God. But the act of addiction, there is no structure. It's just chaos,
Right.
chaos, and then more chaos, and have another stupid chaos.
Right.
And then to put some guardrails around that in the beginning of their recovery.
Right.
It's great, and then they move on to.
Because they have that tug of war. Like I want to control the situation. It's like, you need to trust in the situation. I think your military background definitely would have set you up.
Yeah.
For being able to help them with that structure.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's helpful to anybody to have that. And whenever I talk to like different people in the military and stuff, they gained a lot from that structure that really set them up for the rest of life. Even though they gained trauma too, there was things in there with the structure.
Absolutely. The structure which helps you with self-discipline.
Yeah.
Which is just about everything. Right? It can motivate you only so much.
Right.
But you've got to get up every day and do the things that lead you to sobriety.
Right.
And that takes self-discipline.
Absolute. There's a man that would say like getting up in the morning, just like making your bed, like that's your first accomplishment from the military.
Raven, actually, he wrote a book on Make Your Bed.
There you go.
Right, and exactly, and we hear common phrases like self-sabotage and all this. Well, some folks, they wake up in the morning, they start out self-sabotage, right?
Yeah.
So do something for yourself. Get a task done.
Right.
It could be anything.
Right.
And build on that as opposed to.
Because you have that snowball effect.
Exactly. Compound effect. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get that upward spiral.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's some lessons to be sprinkled, and I learned from them too. Because going through adversity, humans kind of good at that.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't know it.
Right. Yeah.
And the encouragement and seeing those things happen is pretty amazing.
Right. And I think too, which, if you never really been through addiction or not really know much about it, on your behalf, it's really enlightening to like see the stories of people and like, wow, like they really actually coped with it the best way that they knew how.
At the moment,
yeah, because like we all have this story line that kind of, trains us up in the way, I think, and we have these characteristics about ourselves, but when you're in these open groups, you see like, you know what I mean, like the pain that does exist in the world authentically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we need to make sure that, at least from my point of view, to make sure that not to run from those pains.
Yeah.
Maybe even confront them.
Yeah.
Or that may be simply talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But when we stick them back in the backpack, stuff them down in the rucksack and leave them there, they get awful heavy carrying around. And we need to let people know that they can do that and provide places where they can do it.
Right.
And once we kind of get sort of past that, if that's the right way to say it, well, I think we really need to start, let's start talking about solutions. Let's start talking about how you are going to live your life.
Right.
And put things together.
Yeah. I think I grown to like look at it so much as like, the bad patches are actually like something to appreciate the same as the good patches.
Yeah, we learn by failure, so we're smart enough to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what life is, right?
Right.
Us figure it out one problem after another.
Yeah. Better way. So you guys have the drug overdose awareness event. You've been running it for how long?
I think 5 years. This is our fifth year.
Yeah. There's a good bit of people here.
Yeah, I think
showed up.
I look around maybe 150. Maybe.
Yeah.
Count all the kids. And, it's kind of bittersweet, right? Here we are, trying to have some memories of people who lost their life to their addiction.
Right.
And at the same time celebrating life. It's kind of a dichotomy there,
Right.
And so, yeah, it's a time to reflect.
Definitely.
And think about that we're only one step away from that too, right?
Right.
There, but by the grace of God, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to think about that and to, lend an ear, lend a shoulder, lend whatever, just be there for the folks who have lost somebody, because those wounds will never go away.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Thank you so much.
Drinking would have been my thing. Even though cocaine and ecstasy, they brought me to the brain damage. The alcohol did the most work.
Yeah.
That's the one that I went back to. The other ones were easy for me to just let go. But it was releasing that connection that there was something wrong with me.
Didn't really fit in with the in crowd. Growing up, I was a rollerblader. They called us skate rats. All right. And I did like the extreme games kind of stuff, doing flips on ramps and sliding down handrails and all kinds of crazy stuff on the rollerblades. But that kind of scene, I was always hanging out with the older kids. Didn't really hang out with kids my age. Then when they got into doing some nonsense, I kind of just did it to fit in and to hang out with them. I was about 13 when I first, smoked weed, and then probably 14 or 15 when I was doing pills and drinking. And then next thing you know, I'm not doing the recreational activities as far as like skating and stuff anymore, but I'm just, partying and, I don't know, just living that lifestyle And before you know it, I'm selling drugs and all this and that, and staying in trouble, in and out of juvenile, in and out of like treatment facilities for like younger kids, detention centers and boot camps is what they were. Really is almost like military based. You wore the the camo stuff and walked in cadence and walked in line, and just a lot of discipline and trying to get you back on track or whatever. But I guess I'd do good for a little while after those things, but it wouldn't be long before I was, back out doing crazy stuff. And then turned 18, so kind of got out of the juvenile system and didn't have to be at home no more. So kind of went a little crazier, robbing pharmacies, doing all kinds of stuff like that. I was, in the thick of it, right when like Oxycontin and stuff like that was really big. Then it seems like it was like right before I turned 18 was when I robbed the first pharmacy. And then I got put on probation and stuff because I was still a juvenile when I did it. But then that lasted till after I was 18. Then I finally got off. Then I don't know. It seemed like something happened. Yeah, okay. I tried to rob a drug dealer. That's what it was.
Not a good idea.
This is such an old life. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
it just seems like a bad dream now. I mean, I'm 14
Right.
years clean and sober and serving Jesus. It's like that wasn't
14
even
years
me.
is a long time.
Yeah, so I'm trying to, just remember all the little details. So I tried to rob a drug dealer, and I ended up getting stabbed 4 times with like a little pocket knife. It didn't really hurt me too bad. Didn't really hurt me too bad, but I had to get, I actually had my girlfriend at the time sew me up with fishing wire just because I didn't want to go to the hospital. But right across my stomach, I got stabbed. But I guess it just went into like the ab muscles or whatever. It didn't really puncture anything serious. But I guess that guy, he was on probation as well. I think we had the same probation officer. Might have been how we met. It's probation officer or something like that. I don't know. But his pill count was off after I robbed him. And he said that I robbed him. He didn't want to say that he was selling drugs, and the cops got called that night because he lived in like an apartment. I was already gone by the time they got there, and got arrested the next day. And I guess that was the last time I was ever really out on the streets, like chasing, doing crazy stuff. And for some reason, they didn't send me to prison. They let me go to rehab. And I don't know why they kept giving me chance after chance, but I went to a 12-step program, rehab, not really faith-based, but, they say it's a spiritual program and all that. And really, if you're looking for truth, you can find it no matter where you go. But it was a 6-month program, and I don't know, I was working the steps, but I just got to the mentality and the mind frame of, I'm sick of this old life. Don't really want to do it anymore. Didn't really want to do it for a long time. I don't know. I was 10 years drug addict, alcoholic, probably after about 5 or 6 years. I didn't want to do it no more, but because I lived that way for so long, I didn't really know how else to live, So that's all I knew, and that's why I kept doing it. And I finally was like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to know why I'm really here and what I'm meant for. And I don't know if this Jesus thing is real. What about all these other religions? What if I was raised in another country, taught to believe this stuff? I don't want to just believe it because mom and dad told me to and all this stuff. And, just started to get real and started to seek truth for what it was instead of what people told me it was. Because a lot of times, even though people are telling you about Jesus, it's coming from this religious, judgmental perspective that really isn't the real Jesus anyway. You know what I mean? I mean, they might have the right intentions and going about it the wrong way or whatever, but it just always seems so judgmental and condemning that I just didn't want nothing to do with it. I felt like I couldn't live up to it. And I always felt like I was interacting with people that either were perfect And I knew that I wasn't, so I didn't feel like I could hang with them, or they were just acting like they were perfect when they wasn't. And I didn't want to hang with those kind of people either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was just, it was a turn off one way or the other. So I started just seeking truth for what it was instead of what people told me it was. And I also started seeking truth for what it was and not what I wanted it to be. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times we can just create our own version of truth that's custom fitted according to what we want to do with our lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what I think it's step 3 in the 12 steps, it says, submit your will to the God of your understanding. You know what I mean? And I understand that they're trying to push people to a good place, but a lot of times it allows room for people to create their own understanding of truth and their own understanding of God. You know what I mean? And if you're just seeking for what you want truth to be and who you want God to be, then you're not really turning your will over to God. You're turning your will over to yourself, and you're making yourself believe that it's God when it's just your version of God, and your version of God is just you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was just seeking truth for what it was, not what people told me it was. Truth for what it was, not what I wanted it to be. And I found Jesus. Jesus found me, however you want to say it. And I haven't looked back since, man.
I always try to figure out, like, where the heck did I go wrong? Where did all this stuff, because it wasn't the family, wasn't growing up in a dope house or anything like that. I didn't grow up. A lot of people think I grew up in the hood, and I actually didn't. I chose to go there and live there because, I thought that I was supposed to be an addict or all this stuff. So that's where I just figured I'd go. But even in 3rd grade, man, they put my desk outside of the classroom. When you're that bad and you have ADD and you just all wound up, and you're just so bad. And back then they could paddle you. And I remember my teacher would put a paddle and then he'd put holes in it so that he could get the airflow through it. I still remember that. And they would take me into the bathrooms, paddle me. But 3rd grade, they literally took my desk and put me outside of the classroom. And so, like, I always say that because at such a young age, I was looking in. And that I think affected me because in 5th grade, I was already bringing the little airplane bottles of alcohol to school.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't do nothing now, but you're taking, a bunch of Tylenol, a bunch of all this stuff because you're just trying to feel something. I excluded, I was different, I was crazy, I was loud, I was extra, so I just started on that path at so young. In 5th grade, I got kicked out of public school because I was too much for them. And they basically called my mom and said, hey, either you take him out or we're going to expel him and then it'll be on his record and all that stuff. And my mom had a good friend, a Christian friend, right? And, we weren't a Christian household. I wasn't grew up with God. None of that. So we ain't praying. We ain't sitting at the table eating dinner. There's, I don't have a dad. He ain't around. He came around one time, 18. But my mom takes me out and she says, hey, boom, we're going to take you to this other school. It's a Christian school. And I'm telling you, that's my first experiences with believers and all that stuff. And I just thought they were crazy. Crazy. Y'all are just, why y'all smiling so much? Why? What is all this? Like, what are you laughing for? You ain't making no good money. You ain't none of y'all driving no Mercedes. None of you guys, like, I'm young, you know what I mean? Thinking about all this stuff. And I'm like, why are you happy? And so, but they showed me love and they never gave up on me, so I went to that school from 5th grade to 8th grade and I was a menace. Like, you have to wear belts back then, tuck your shirts in, stuff like that. And me, I wasn't doing that. And because I thought I was a gangster, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, I would wear my down and talk with slang and all that stuff. And so every morning they went and bought a thing of clothesline. Every morning they'd make me come into the office and make me a belt. I remember that every morning I would go there, and I thought these people hated me. Come to find out later on in life, man, they were praying for me. That whole place, I knew it. And but unfortunately, at 8th grade, I was just too much for them also. Because at the age of 12, I'm already smoking weed. We're already drinking. We're already doing Percocets and biking. And, I'm in the dirt bikes and all that stuff. Your friends get hurt. You start taking Vicodin and all this stuff. And their parents are partiers. We can smoke and drink with them as kids. You know, and one thing led to another. And before I left that Christian school, I'm trying to think, because I was in 7th grade, somewhere in there, is when I tried heroin. See, I tried heroin before I knew that it was heroin. That's how nuts it was. Like, I only knew it as a stamp bag. I had no idea that it was heroin. If I did, I might not have did it. I probably would have, but I don't know. So young and so dumb that I just wanted to fit in, right? I just wanted to be somewhere. And so that literally started it. And I didn't do it every day. I didn't do it constantly all the time, but I would do it here and there. The smoking weed every single day. And then 8th grade, I became too much because I would be smoking it at the Christian school. They'd be trying to pray for me. I'm out back smoking a bowl. You know, it was just, you know, they eventually said, listen, you got to go. So I left that school. They let me back into public school my 9th grade year, my freshman year. Now I'm already, by the time I was a freshman, I was already doing heroin every day. Smoking, drinking, acid, just everything, you know. And I remember my last day of school, midway through the freshman year, and I took acid and a bunch of stuff before I went to school and kind of lost it. Flipped out on a couple teachers and got expelled permanently from any school, public school district. So 9th grade, they kicked me out of all schools and I started homeschooling. So, and my mom is I love her to death, but that's another story. You know, she enabled me a lot just through her love, not by putting her foot. Hey, figure it out. She always says I'm too much for God, so she had to help God with me. You know, and now she's coming around and understanding and realizing you know you could pray for us, but we got, you know. But it kicked me out of there, and that was the end of my school. So at the end, middle 9th grade, that was it. I would just cheat off my mom's books, all that stuff. Continue literally just getting high every day. My mom moved to Ohio, which then made me homeless. You know, so I was homeless at 17 years old. Tried to stay at my sisters, my aunts, and different things. But, you know, through the addiction, I would just rob them, steal, you know, go do all that stuff. I was never incarcerated until I was 18 years old. So what's even crazier with 31 rehabs and 6 years incarcerated altogether through county and state time, none of that even started till I was 18. So if you look at my time frame of when I started getting in trouble to where I stopped, I don't have a whole lot of street time. When I'm out, I go hard and then end up getting arrested or back in rehab. It was cool. Like it was. That's why I was so messed up in my mind, because I was like, this is who I was born to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is who I am. So I'm going to be really good at being a junkie. I actually enjoyed it. People would hide their track marks and stuff, and I would wear no shirt or a muscle shirt, and just, I didn't care.
Yeah.
I am, you know, and this just went on. I mean, the same stuff, living homeless, living in dugouts, living in playgrounds, abandoned buildings, everything that I could do just to get by and get high. You know, I've been at the lowest count change and, you know, been not top dog, but selling a good bit, you know, and did that for so long. You know, you do it for so long, you don't ever think there's a way out.
Right.
I mean, I sit back and reflect nowadays, and I'm like, how? You couldn't pay me enough now.
Yeah.
But, and when you're in it, you know, and if anybody watches this and they're in the middle of it, it's just like, how do you get out? And it's, well, you get people that actually care about you, you know, and you gotta put some work in too. Because I went to a lot of the rooms, you know, like I said, I've been to 31 rehabs, and they've trained me, you know, one day at a time. Once an addict, always an addict, and all that stuff. But me personally, this is just me, my story. I had a hard time with that, because at 18, rehabs, I started going into that stuff. And I remember my 19th rehab, I was up in Butler at Geyser Center. And I remember going into a meeting, and this biker guy said, I was telling my testimony and I was joking. I was like, yeah, this is my 19th rehab. I was just arrogant and thought I was cool.
Yeah.
He stood up and he started laughing. He says, what's funny about that? What, you never had a sponsor? I says, oh, what? He says, well, I'm your sponsor now. I didn't even know what that really like meant, but I was just like, yeah, whatever, dude. And so he tried. And again, I appreciate everything that people have done for me in that, on this path, you know, on this road, in different seasons of your life where someone will come in and out, you know, to help you get to the next place. But I remember he tried so hard, I just wouldn't listen. I couldn't listen. Like, I just was so hard-headed because I was so wired that it's like the streets had you. You know, it's like, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be respected, and money and girls and drugs and cars and all this stuff, you know, jewelry and all this stuff that I thought I wanted. And I just never wanted to stop, ever. I never did, you know, in and out of county. It was never a punishment. I'm a knucklehead. I'm a jokester. So I would go into county. I like playing cards. You know, I could eat soups and make chi-chis all day long and I'm good. You know, we'll just clown and just have fun and play ball and all that stuff. So jail wasn't a consequence. Prison wasn't a consequence. When I went, so I was doing all this stuff, moved to Ohio. My mom, she moves out to Ohio with this guy. A couple years later, she, you know, we talk all the time, but a couple years later, she's like, why don't you move out here? It's beautiful. And again, my mom, I love her, but she's a little naive. You know, she's never cussed, never smoked a cigarette, never nothing. And she says, it's beautiful out here, right outside of Cleveland. And she says, there's no drugs around here. I love it when people say that. Like, what? Where's this one? And they put me in Euclid, Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, where the dope is cheaper, better, and more easier to get. And I went out there and, you know, just went crazy. Went to more depth than I ever went. You know, you have them oh, I just won't do this. I just won't do this. I won't do like all of these things. And it just, there's nothing I don't think out there that I haven't done to get money. Yeah. You know, look at me now as a, you know, because now I'm a pastor and all that stuff. And I'll tell some people that can handle the testimony, the real one, the depths of it, just so they understand. We can look eye to eye and say, listen, man, I know you're saying you're here and you thinking I wasn't there, but I was here. Yeah. I was on the sidewalk. I was tricking for $20. So when you say you was here, I'm telling you, I've been there. I've been on that sidewalk. I've been getting home to get picked up to go do some tricks to make some money. Men, women, whatever it is. And again, I'm not ashamed to say that's my story. Yeah. And I want to be able to be relatable to people and say, listen, man, I don't care how far you are, how long you've done it. You can get out. There's always a way out. Always. Unfortunately, even back here, I got a bike right there. I got 16 good friends that have OD'd and died. That was my best friend's bike right there. And, you know, he made it out, but then he went back one more time. Yeah. And unfortunately, I hear a lot. One more time, one more time, one more time. And I'm telling you, I got a good bit of them, and I'm sure a lot of people do that don't make it back out. And that's what fuels me even more today, to make sure we keep pushing and opening doors for people that won't open it themselves. Right. You know, so, but I got caught. I love stealing. Like, I wouldn't steal off grandma's or nothing like that. Like, I would go into the stores, Boost, Home Depot, Lowe's. Sorry about that, Lowe's and Home Depot. But statute of limitations can't get me now. And so I would Boost and then go back, take the gift card, sell it. And would do that every single day. My habit was $520 a day. Was an 8-ball raw heroin. And then you had to get cigarettes, gas, and eat potato chips, you know. But single day of my life. And it was funny. Every time I would get arrested or caught, I never ran once. Because I was, you know, like when they would catch me, it's funny because I got friends with some of them out in Cleveland. Like, I'd smile. Like, finally. Go get the oil change, you know, I could go chill. And so I did this. I got caught. They sentenced me to 6 months. I did that time. Came back out. Got caught probably about 6 to 8 months later. But this time, I didn't know it. We were stealing from JCPenney's, and my friend got in a tussle with the officer, and a knife came out. So what was a misdemeanor just turned into a felony 1 in the state of Ohio. So what went from a little bit of jail time, time. And when they said that to me, they came back. My lawyer, you know, we're in county and doing all that. He comes back. He says they're wanting you to take 3 to 11. 3 to 11. What? I said, 3 to 11. No, years. I said, hold up. Wait a minute. What? So 3 to 11 years just for a little boosting. I was like, what in the world? But how sick I was I've never been to prison yet. And everybody in Ohio, it seems like they all go. So I actually made a song in prison about let's go to prison. That's how how messed up the enemy or the world can make your mind. Or people like who you are. This is what you're supposed to be. Oh, just take it. No, it isn't what it is. Everybody say it is what it is. No, it ain't.
Yeah.
It is what you make. And so when I went into the courtroom, and I had the worst judge, they called him Lock 'em Up Lucci. And everybody was getting hit on him. And they offered me 9 months. It's called NeoCap out there, 9 months rehab rather than go to prison. And in the courtroom, I rejected it. See, they sent me for a PSI. That's a pre-sentence investigation. And when they asked me if I was ready to quit and do all this stuff, I says no and laughed at them. So when they said that in the courtroom, the judge, it was like a movie. The judge took off his glasses and laid it down, and he's looking at me. He's like, there's no help for you. Now, the state of Ohio deems me unrehabilitatable, which means when they sentenced me to prison, they said I'm not going to change. Judge Lucci actually said that I'm going to die this way. There's nothing anybody can do. I'm too far gone. And he said, I'm going to give you your wish and I'm going to send you to prison. Now, they only gave me 12 months. They gave me 12 months. And matter of fact, they gave me only 6 months probation with that, which is unheard of too. The way that they said that they wanted the time I was in Ohio, I was locked up more than I was on the street. They wanted me out of their state.
Yeah.
So I went and did all that stuff. I get out, got high on the stairs of the Cuyahoga County courthouse, shot up right there on the stairs. 33 days later, I got caught in another Giant Eagle stealing. They sent me back to county jail, gave me 6 months. The judge went on video camera almost like this and says, hey, are you done getting high? I says, no. He says, then I'm giving you 6 months. Now, 3 months into that sentence, I'm sitting there watching TV and they call my name and they say, pack it up, means you're leaving. Because I'm a knucklehead, I hit the button back and I says, where am I going? I ain't going to, like, I'm here, I'm home. And they says, no, you're leaving. Sounds crazy. 3 days prior to that, a guy called me out of the pod. They called me on a furlough, playing cards, hanging out. This guy comes in. Yeah, I've never met him. I don't even know who he is. I tried to find him now. I tried to have my mom find him. Nobody knows who he is. He came in and he looks at me and I'm like, can I help you? Because usually in furloughs, if someone dies or something like that, this is what he said. He says, I'm here to give you a message. He says, you've lived your life long enough for yourself. Now it's time to live for God.
Aww.
This guy has no idea who he is. I've never requested anything. I don't know who he is. And he comes in here specifically to tell me this. Now, whether that was a mix up or not, I don't know. Super random, super weird. At this point, I literally have my poker cards in my hand. Like, I don't care what you're saying, bud.
Yeah.
And I go back to the pod. And 3 days later, the CO calls me to pack it up. Now, I go, obviously. And I go outside, and I remember borrowing a phone, and I called my mom. I says, Mom, guess what? I'm out. And I remember hearing the hurt in my mom's voice when she says, why? Because the only time she knew I was safe was locked up.
Yeah. Aww.
She knew I wasn't going to die. She knew I was good. I'm going to make it. And to know her baby boy's back out on the street with a death wish broke her heart.
Yeah.
Now, she still came and picked me up. I agreed. She says, will you please go into this program? I says, all right. It's down in Pittsburgh, back home. She picks me up in Cleveland. I had to get dope one more time, just one more. You know, I got hot all the way there. All the way there. I end up getting there at night, down in the hood. Now later on, I found out I actually I used to cop bricks at the end of the street. I didn't know that when I got there. It took me a few months to realize where the heck I was. But they took me into that house that night, and I woke up the next day. First time in my life. Now, all the addicts are going to understand this, because there's something inside of you that most of the time you don't even want to get high, but you need to. It's like that draw that you're crying. You're like, no, but I need to go. It's that little thing, like we couldn't get rid of it no matter, I don't care if you took Suboxone or methadone or whatever it is. It's like that hot, like I need it.
Yeah.
For the first time in my life, that was gone. I woke up literally, I had no idea what that was. And from literally that day, like you can't, the discipleship program I went to was 9 months. No smoking, no cussing. You're in church every day. You're doing work services. You're doing all this stuff. It's what I needed at the time. But the people that did it were just like me, but they were just further ahead in their walk.
Yeah.
You know, pastors loved on people. They were tatted up. They were felons. They weren't so cute and cuddly. They were a little rough. But that's what I needed. That's who I needed.
Yeah.
And so when I went into that program, it was so weird because everybody in my life has always told me they're done. First time I met my dad, he said I had to change this, and this for him to accept me. That's the last time I ever seen him. Because I had to always change and do all this stuff, and I was too much for everybody. For the first time, I can hear God saying that I'm enough, that he wants me. Now, it wasn't right away, boom, 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 but because that feeling was gone and I've never had that, I gave it a chance.
Yeah.
I still thought that people were weird praying and doing all this stuff, but I was like, I would always be at the back of the church like this. And I'd be looking at people, measuring them up. Like, I'm serious, I'm sick, I'm messed up in the head. I'd be like, man, I could beat them up. Yep. Yep. And all I would do, I was clown on people. I got no tattoos, nothing. Like, I was just mean.
Yeah.
But I stayed. And after a little while, I started like moving up a couple rows in the church. And before I knew it, I was at the front of the altar with my hands up and just saying, man, this feels better than anything.
Yeah.
See, I'm not a very smart person, like book-wise. Like I'm not, I can get this thing because to me, this lifestyle is better than eating out of the dumpsters that I have. That living out of the dumpsters and all that stuff. This is way better. And it was just a peace that I've never had, a freedom I've never had. And it was Jesus that did it for me. And now I can, it's not just the idea of Jesus. It's not just reading the Bible that does it for me. There's an actual tangible feeling that I get from it. You know, because a lot of people be like, well, how do you actually feel it or talk to him and all that stuff? I says, I don't know. I says, my relationship with him, he understands who I am. And we talk in different ways that I'll understand.
Yeah.
Whether it's a sign, whether it's, you know, I'll ride my dirt bike and go sit on a mountaintop and look at his beauty and whatever it is.
Yeah.
But from that day, man, I just, I've been down for so long. Once you're in the hole for so long and you get a little fresh breath, you can keep that. It's a little bit of work and people are going to aggravate you because a lot of people go backwards because they get aggravated at someone or something screws up or someone leaves them, a relationship or something happens. Someone passes away and then they go backwards. Well, that's their choice. They don't have to.
Yeah.
I'm destructive in my life, but I've always stayed focused and said, man, I'm out of that pit. I ain't going back, man. Them sidewalks are cold at night.
Yeah.
You know, them dugouts are lonely. And so I went through that program. I started leading that program. You know, in that they said, because I was a part of a church network, City Reach down in Pittsburgh, they took urban people and made them church planters, pastors. So they took who we were, filled us full of the Holy Spirit and fire of God, and let us out on the streets and said, here, go build a church.
That's awesome.
And part of that network, and we ended up opening recovery homes. The ones that I was in, we started, that was the fifth one they opened. By the time I was done, we had 24. You know, we had 6 churches. By the time we were done, there was 100. There was a lot of stuff. Then I went to the Assemblies of God ministries, certified through them, and just continued on this path. And even that whole network that I was a part of at that time, in that season of my life, they fell apart. And that's where I had to make a decision. Do I just crumble? Do I just go back to regular? You know what I mean? Or do I take this? Because now I'm looking at all my other addicts out there. Who's going to help them? Like, I knew this is what helped me. I know that there's other ones like me. Yeah. You know, maybe 31 rehabs and been down for so long and started at a young age. Maybe you only been on it a year or something like that, but you needed a little hard-nosed, in-your-face love that says, no, bro, let's go. Because a lot of people, because they can't open the door. For one, they're too lazy to open the door. For 2, they don't know how to open the door. And for 3, it's a lot of work to open it.
Yeah.
People that are going to open the doors and just say, come on, follow me. I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to show you in a book how to do it. I'm going to live it with you. And that's what these homes did. So at that moment, I didn't have no money. I was working for the ministry. I mean, ministry don't pay, you know. So shout out to everybody who's doing ministry. I'm believing God's going to multiply their ministries in a financial way, because God, that a lot of us do this for change. We don't do it for a lot of, we do it because we need to do it for our brothers and sisters and to be fulfilled. But as long as we stay consistent with that, God's going to overflow that. Just like this podcast, overflow this thing now. He's going to continue to keep blessing it and moving it forward. And so I had a moment, I didn't really have no money. I didn't have no business. I didn't have work ethic. While I was in that home, though, my mom loaned me $500. I bought a Cavalier. And I remember I went and did 1 yard. I borrowed a weed whacker and I cut that yard. And with that money, I went and bought a pair of like hedge trimmers. And I did one more job. And before I knew it, I had a little mower and everything out of the back of my little car. And the little bit of money I had, I ended up doing, the Lord led me to this guy who owned 30-some properties in the north side of Pittsburgh. And I started mowing his lawns. Well, I asked him, can I rent a duplex to help people like me? That organization closed down, the one that I was a part of. These guys had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, I decided to open my own nonprofit called Kingdom Bound Project. And I rented out these 2 duplexes on my own and just said, let's go. We're going to continue to do this. We continue to minister and keep doing this and bringing guys. Dude, we had 25 people in the one side of the duplex, just on top of each other. But they didn't care because there was somewhere safe. There was a brother walking out. Like, it was what everybody needed for that time. And people are going to get in rough spots in their life, even after they're recovered and in their journey years later, that things might not work out. And that's where you're at. You got to make a decision, but God's telling you to keep on it.
Yeah.
You got to keep going through that rough patch, because afterwards there's some of my best friends I just came back from Africa with. We're going all over the world now, preaching the gospel and living our dreams and stuff, because we stuck to it. Wasn't always easy. Always came out of my pocket. Wasn't just fun to do it sometimes, but I had to do it.
Recovery is a daily struggle. So, and then keeping the faith, especially in today's world, it's tough because there's so much out there in the world that's promoting all this stuff to kind of lead you down the wrong path, and to think that all this other stuff is more important, but really your own inner happiness and whatever makes you happy is what makes you happy, and just be yourself. I think a lot of people try and be somebody that they're not just to please other people. But if you're your true self, then your true friends are going to stick with you no matter what.
Great. So Diane, while you attend the Not Alone Family Support Groups.
So we do it every Tuesday night, and it's helped me so much. It's just like an extended family. I lost a son 7 years ago due to addiction, and then in September last year, I lost a daughter due to addiction.
Sorry about that.
And my daughter's fiance passed away due to addiction 2 months after my son. So I'm raising 3 of my grandsons now. They live with us. And the group has been a tremendous support. And it seems strange still talking about drugs when I'm not dealing with that drug issue now. But quite a few of the addicts that go to the meeting, and that's the good thing about this meeting, it's family and the addicts, have said that they didn't realise what they were putting their families through. And the insanity of the disease makes not only the addict insane, it makes the families insane as well.
Right.
And hopefully now, they're at the verge and they're healing and they're at peace.
Right.
So, I'm there if anyone needs to, talk about anything, either the addict or the family member. And I root the addicts on.
Right.
I want only the best for them, because they've become like extended family, because you see them coming back again and again.
Yeah.
And, it's like piece of it.
Yeah. I work in a treatment center myself, and I use that oftentimes in recovery to be like, because they'll say, well, I miss my family. And I'm like, your family would do anything, include like losing out on a year, 2 years time, just to know that you're going to be, a part of the family, and that, that you're going to be better. Like, that's what they want for you.
That's all they want.
Yeah.
That's all we want for our children.
Yeah.
To be happy and healthy.
Right.
And you don't realise how much the healthy means until, you haven't got it or you're struggling with it, because it involves all aspects of the person.
Yeah.
And the family members.
Yeah.
Their health goes down drastically as well, because they're not sleeping at night. It's going to pick them up at 2 or 3 in the morning. I don't miss any of that. I miss my son and my daughter every day. That I have the 3 children. I've got a few of them playing on that baseball team over there. So and they keep me going. They keep me going. We talk about it all the time, because I want them to, because they lost a mother and a father.
Right.
And so genetically they're predisposed.
Right.
And they're getting to that age. The eldest, he's going to be 16 next month. And my son's 2 children, they come up all regularly all the time. And, so we're getting through. And all we want is the best for them. But we didn't think, I didn't think I'd get to 66 and I'd be raising children all over again.
Right. It's hard.
It's hard, but it's hard for them, because we don't do as much at 66 as what we were, 20, 30 years ago. I did everything with the children.
Right.
I mean, we're involved with all their sports, and every activity they're in. But I would far rather than have their parents doing it
Right.
and be in that grandparent role
Right.
rather than the parent role.
Right.
But they're doing well, that's all I can ask for.
Right. Yeah, I think that is extremely important to like be transparent with with the kids, and they're starting so young. So it's like as soon as you see, you know, that could be being introduced, you can get it.
You've got to get back there for ringing the bell. Yeah, I'm just doing an interview. It was 3 of the boys.
Yeah. Yeah, my oldest daughter, she's on her 3rd year of college, and when she first started going, she was like partying all the time. Like, you really don't want to mess around with that fire, because not anybody that's sitting in rehab said, you know what, one day,
Yeah.
I want to deal with this addiction. One day I want to fight this. Like, nobody's saying that's what I want to be whenever I grow up.
My other daughters always tell me one of the things that I say to them is, don't pick up unless you want to be a slave to it for the rest of your life.
You just don't know.
So they don't know, but the predisposition is there. I mean, I don't know where it came from with my trip, but there it was, you know, and we had to deal with it. And I don't think, unless you have someone in active addiction or in recovery, you don't realise exactly what it entails.
Right.
Everyone thinks you can snap your fingers and just, and I wish it was as easy as that, because then I would have lost them.
Right.
Because if love could have done it, they had it a millionfold.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't to be.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
It's a lot of work.
You know, I do it over and over.
Yeah, it's a lot of work being in recovery, but it's well worth it. You see, people that are in recovery are a lot more well-rounded than people that's really never dealt with recovery.
Yeah.
Because they just they found this really beautiful gratitude, I think, for life when they find it. When they find the recovery, and then that's their purpose.
Yes. And it gives them, yes. Well, this shirt I've got on, we sponsor baseball teams every year on behalf of, Adam was my son, and Jeffrey was my son-in-law, and then this was my grandson's baseball shirt for this year, and then I just put my daughter's name on the bottom. So I'm not sure whether we're going to change the name. We've been sponsoring for six years now, the baseball team. So whether to change it and add her name or just add initials.
Yeah.
Just to think of them, keep them alive and all in other people's minds as well.
Yeah. Obviously, they really imprinted your heart, so you're still giving that away.
Mm-hmm. Oh, most definitely. And they'd be so proud of their own children, you know. And that's what hurts so much. I mean, for it to happen once, and then my daughter said, God, that will never be me. But it wasn't to be, you know. Met up with someone from the past, and then my grandchildren ringing the bell for the names. They thought of that, but it's the first time that I haven't had them at meetings or anything. I just go by myself, actually, because I get something out of being able to talk about them still.
Yeah.
And my husband is the opposite. You know, whenever they were talking, he had to walk away from it. You know, it's still too fresh in his mind. And I mean, we all deal with grief differently.
Absolutely.
Mine is I like talking about them, and I like, you know, them to be remembered.
Right.
And you know, be there for the boys and show them, how to be
Yeah.
strong, and if they needed to talk to anyone, but they've had all their sports and they seem to be handling it really well.
Yeah.
But they know that if they need to talk to someone away from the family, that we would definitely take them.
So what is like, what do you think would be that you learned from, all the sorrows that you went through with losing two children with active addiction? What would you tell another parent that's going through that you might want to share?
But at the time, there is nothing we can do. We can love them, and we can love them too much and then proceed it even quicker by enabling, or we can love them, let them know that we're there and ready for them when they are willing to want to be in recovery. And it's strange because for so many years, my life's been in turmoil with them. And now I don't have to wake. I've had the worst phone calls I'll ever have. One of them was when I was in England when my son passed away. And then just after the next week, my mother had a massive stroke, so I had to go back to England. And in that time, my daughter's fiance passed away. So I was in England. I was in England twice. But just letting them know that you're there for them and that there is help if they want it. But it's the one thing in life that you can't do for them. They have to do it themselves. And sometimes we want it for them more than they want it. They've got to have that fight in them. And I knew that my daughter's kids were the thing that kept her fighting. But because it had gone on for so many years, on and off, once that last time came, it was downhill really quickly.
Yeah.
Because otherwise she would still be here. Yeah.
Yeah.
People, places.
Yeah.
People and places.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do.
Right. Yeah, and I always like to think about like the people that I've lost in my life, and is that like whenever I look at my kids and there's gonna come a day whenever I'm not here anymore. It's like, really I don't want them to hurt forever. I know it's gonna hurt,
Yes.
but I want them to understand like I'm just moving forward. Like I'm transitioning, and I want them to celebrate the light.
Well, we do that in Florida. We let off balloons.
Aww.
My daughter's fiance, we let off balloons when it's all their birthdays, and then when the day of passing as well, we let off balloons. So, and we have cake and pizza. So it's a celebration for the kids.
Yeah.
See whose balloon goes the highest. But one of the other things with the meeting is there's no judgment.
Yeah.
On any side, and out in the real world, no matter what, you still feel the judgment, and a lot of it might be in my head, but you still feel where you go in there and you feel you can say exactly what you want, in front of the family members and the addicts, and they get it.
Yeah.
No one else can get it if they've not been through it.
Right.
And they, as I say, it's just helped me, and that's my way of getting through things.
And it's like a family too, right?
It is. Yeah. It's an extended family.
Yeah.
You know, when I went here today, everyone hears me talk about all my grandchildren and the family, and they were all seeing them today for the
Yeah.
first time, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was nice.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with me.
Well,
and
thank you.
You're going to bless a lot of people with this, and no doubt that your grandsons is going to be a part of their beautiful story too. You know, they're going to help other people too.
Yeah, hopefully, and we just want to keep our eye on them and keep them on that right road.
Right.
Because there is far more help now than there's ever been.
Right. It's true.
And a lot of the stigma has gone.
Yeah,
You know,
it's true.
so hopefully, you know, there's not that fear of, you know, going forward. It was fearful for me the first time I went to a meeting,
Yeah.
you know, and that was a family
Right.
family group, you know.
Yeah.
I thought it's not me that has the problem,
Right.
it's my child.
Right.
But
You needed it.
we needed it, yeah,
Yeah.
extremely.
Yeah. I know like 12 years ago, like recovery wasn't really talked about. Addiction was talked about.
Yeah.
So, and it really is. I mean, it's a huge problem, but it's also a huge blessing that people actually have a way to get help rather than, you know, back in that time period, it's like, well, what do I do? You know? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're doing a phenomenal job, just in the wrong
Right.
direction.
Right.
So let's
Yeah.
awaken your talents over to something that you actually love doing.
I was thankful for the rehab because, you know, in rehab, they have you focus on like things that seem menial, you know, things that seem like, why, you know, like if you walk out of the room without turning off the lights, they'll make you write a paper on like responsibility because you need to be responsible enough to turn off the lights, you know. And you just think that stuff's like nitpicky and aggravating, but it helped really just like it helped my mind get reshaped to focusing on, because if you can't handle the little things, you can't handle the big things, you know what I mean? And it helped me just to have time to learn how to be normal again, because I just didn't even know how to be normal without being, I mean, I wasn't getting high or getting drunk to get high or drunk anymore. I was getting high and getting drunk to get right, to get normal, you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to be normal. I didn't know how to, you know, really just be a regular person anymore. So that time in rehab helped me really do that, helped me really break some old thought processes and focus on new things.
The steps.
Yeah.
They're very similar with the walk with Christ, you know, 1, 2, and 3.
It's the same as the biblical, yeah.
Like it's those things, and doing the self-inventory daily and being nice to the next person, putting on the next person, doing all that stuff. But I agree with you, because if a bad day happens and I have to look at myself like an addict, I'm going to respond like an addict does.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
yeah, that's going to be the first thing I would do.
2 Corinthians tells us that when we accept Christ, we're made a new creation.
Yeah.
I've hung tight to that, because if I have to call myself an addict, we see where that got me.
Yeah.
That's one that I got, that I can be.
Yeah.
Now I got over 20 years and such in the rooms, and shout out to y'all. If that works for you, do it. Keep doing it. Stay sober.
Right. I agree.
For me and for my flock that I shepherd, you know, if they want, I got people in my church now that some of them go to the meetings and stuff like that. Man, that's great. But then they also come to the Bible study and get filled up so that they can get their new identity.
What do you think is your saving grace whenever it comes to looking backwards and not making the same mistake?
I think just the stuff that I went through. You know, I've been in rehab before, done time in jail, was part of the, you know, the justice system for many, many years. So just to not put myself in that position anymore. And I had to get rid of a lot of, you know, quote unquote friends, but you don't really know until you start changing your life around who your true friends are. And I noticed my circle became smaller, but you know, it was necessary for like my growth. And I'm still, I'm still battle stuff every day. We all have, demons inside, and I have my good days and my bad days in general. So, I think just me not wanting to go back to that.
So you're Jace. You go to the Not Alone Family Support Group. That is a recovery group, but also for family members
Yeah, so
of people in recovery.
yeah, like the main purpose of it was originally for like family members to kind of be able to come together and have like their own meeting. And throughout like the journey of this meeting building, we brought in addicts and their family members. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of like experience, strength, and hope, because you got family members that are just coming in that are, their loved ones that just went to rehab or just got out. We also have, like myself and my girlfriend, like I have 4.5 years of being successful in recovery. So like thank you. So like our knowledge is a little more than people that are first coming in. So, we've been through a little bit of things and, we try to kind of give our experiences of what we've been through to maybe help other people. So.
Right. So that's kind of like different then from like the NAAA. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot different. So like NA is mostly NA and A is mostly for, the person in recovery. Family members aren't turned away, but it's not really for them. Narnon is another thing for family members as well. We're kind of just like a freelance meeting. We don't really turn anyone away.
Right.
All supporters are welcome. I believe the opposite of addiction is connection.
Right.
So the more we connect, the more information we can get out, the better.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel like it's a harder journey whenever you have to deal with your demons on your own. Like,
most definitely.
Your mind's like always going to be like trying to like do the tango with you, and you have to have somebody and a family there.
Any kind of support, really.
Yeah,
like
there's somebody there to like not just like, because there'll be people that'll be like, well, I got family members that are sober. But I'm like, are they gonna like give you the hard truths whenever you don't want to hear it?
So like I have family, they don't really get it. Like they think I can just stop. Like why can't he just stop? And it wasn't that easy, Like they talk about that rock bottom, and I don't feel like I ever reached the rock bottom until I decided to stop digging.
Yeah.
I had to put my shovel down and realize that like there was a better life. And for me, it got to the point where I was miserable clean and I was miserable hot.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, then, I had a sponsor once tell me, goes, it's not the drugs or the thing that's on the table. It's the funny looking thing between your ears. And I like took a look at it. I was like, oh, it's me, So yeah, like once I figured that out, I don't want to say it got easy, but it definitely made it manageable.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a profound thing that, that we actually do have, the availability to see that our mind isn't who we are, necessarily who we actually even want to be.
Yeah. And, if you would have told me 5 years ago I would be living on a farm, starting a football team, helping people in recovery, like I would have looked at you and probably said you're out of your mind.
Right.
So like you don't really know where it's going to go when you decide to make those steps into recovery.
Right.
When I first started, it was just like, I don't want to live that life anymore.
Right.
And now I look at it and I don't want to give the life that I have now up for anything.
Right.
So.
Right. It's so true too, because like whenever, you start understanding like you're only hurting yourself and you start working towards that, it's like you just don't know how far you're going to go with it. Like you just don't know. And even that, like you're here now 4.5 years later, God knows where you're going to be in 8-10 years. You know what I mean? Like,
it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I missed out on a lot of years, like 11 years, I used. And like, I feel like I have a lot of catching up to do. And like early on, it made my life even more chaotic because like I was trying to cram so much.
Yeah.
And now I've learned to like just kind of step back and like, enjoy
Yeah.
all the things. Like days like this, you get to enjoy.
Right.
Although like when they were reading the names to the people we lost, I was like, man, that's crazy how like I could have been in days.
Right.
And it really makes you grateful. It really
Right.
does make like these kind of events kind of humble you.
Right.
Make you realize that it's much bigger than you.
Right.
So
And you think about like before, not condoning addiction, but you think about like before you actually like were full into addiction, like you have more of a purpose on your life now than you probably did before.
Yeah.
So I feel like these like horrible situations that we walk through like actually pulls out our purpose. And so, that's a good way of looking at it too for like any other addicts that might be feeling like that way too. Like I need to make up for all this lost time. But instead kind of look at like, wow, like that's what molded my purpose though. Like I should appreciate where I'm at right now and keep using it.
yeah, for real. I've had people ask me like, if you could go back and change it, wouldn't you? And I'm like, I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah. People are grateful for it.
A single thing. It's made me the person I am today.
Yeah.
I truly believe that like, my higher power tests me. He thought that I was strong enough to get through it, and here I am. So, I changing one thing might have just made something else worse.
Right.
So, here I am able to give back and try to help the next person struggle.
Right. So what's your football team? Are you looking for people to be on your football team?
Yeah.
Is it like different counties doing this, or is this like?
Yeah, we're part of the Great Eastern Football Association. It's a football 8-man semi-professional football league. Teams range from like the Philadelphia area all the way to Bedford. Locally, we have a team in Somerset. There's a team in Bedford and a team in Johnstown. And I played in Johnstown the last 2 years, 3 years. And I decided that I didn't want to really travel anymore for home games. So I was like, I'm going to make a team in Somerset and see what happens. Also, like, I feel like there's a lot of kids around here. When they get out of high school, they're not quite sure what they want to do, Like, I went to college, and I wished I would have, like, maybe took a year and, played some ball somewhere and didn't lose any college eligibility. And so, like, that's what we're shooting for. We're looking to help some young guys. We're looking to help guys in recovery, or even if it's just, some guys that are just hanging out in their 40s, whatever, want to play ball.
Get people out of the house.
Yeah, something.
Get people out of the house. Yeah, I always like look back to it. It's like a dead age. Is like, cause I'm 39 right now, and so whenever I was a teenager, like I don't know how old you are. You don't have to say, but whenever I was a teenager, like you had like my great uncle that was like in his like 60s out there playing basketball with us. You had like the 20, 30-year-old dads across town. They were over there playing basketball with us, and we had all different age ranges, but there would be like 50 people on the basketball court. It was like the coolest thing whenever the older guys would come in and play basketball with us and be like, no, like, here, let me show you.
And honestly, that's pretty much what we're trying to do. We just want to make something fun for the community. Give some guys a purpose. I mean, I know it's not the NFL.
Yeah.
But it's it's just going to be a good time.
Right.
We brought in a solid coach that's been around the block as far as coaching and things that have gone on in his life, and I think he's going to be a great leader for the young men that we're looking to put on the team.
Yeah.
We are looking at tryouts on September 10th, right here at this facility, and we're also going to play our home games here. So, we talked with a bunch of local vendors, and we're trying to keep most of it locally and work with local businesses. So.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So if you're dealing with addictions in life, addictions are something that's going on in the subconscious. You are not sick forever. You are momentarily in that state, and it can be altered. It is not a forever thing. Although those are beautiful teachings that we go through,
Yeah.
because I did use those, so I'm not
Right.
knocking them down. Use them properly. We can heal from
Yeah.
all experiences. Anything that you say after I am, it better be the most beautiful, loving expression of God within you that you could possibly imagine. Because if
Right.
you are saying other than, you are keeping that alive in your subconscious, which keeps it alive in your body,
Yeah.
keeps it alive in your environment.
Yeah.
Going and surrounding yourself with people who stay sick will keep you there unless you know how to go in and make everyone else there want to be healthy.
I totally agree.
Even when I graduated the rehab, I ended up staying there for like 2 months afterwards because I was scared to go back home. I mean, I knew that I didn't want to go back to the old life. I knew what I wasn't going to do, but I didn't really know what I was going to do. You know what I mean? As far as like the church that I grew up in and just finding the right place to plug into, I didn't know that there was different denominations and different churches and, you know, places that were more open-minded and not as structured and stuff like that. So I just didn't really, I knew what I wasn't going to do, but I didn't know what I was going to do. And I mean, I guess that's a good place to start, you know.
Yeah.
But God kind of just, I was determined not to go back. So God just kind of directed my path, and he opened up all the right doors and connected me with all the right people and got plugged into a church.
You know, a lot of my people, they say you're a little too much giving. You're a little too much. God's a little bit too much for me.
Yeah.
He should
Amen.
ratchet. Like, there's no reason I should be where I'm at, traveling the world, preaching to people, doing all this stuff when I'm just a hood rat that was a junkie sleeping in a dugout. But because of that, because he set me free out of that, everything's his. You know, every day is his. Breath is his. Everything that I do is for him, for the kingdom of God. It's not for myself. And since I've done that, I found so many more resources coming in, not to put in my pocket, but to help the next person.
I
And
love
again,
that.
that's step 12 right there.